Shopping for Christmas presents might not have been quite what Stamford Raffles had in mind when he established Singapore as a free port, but I don't think he would have found the Orchard Road experience all that displeasing. Of course, in Sir Stamford's time, all of this would have been jungle, perhaps with the odd tiger ambling by in the background. The really happening place back then in terms of commerce was down at the river mouth. So let's take a look and see what was going on there.
180 years ago, quite a lot was going on, and it can be best summed up in the words of a letter that Stamford Raffles sent to the Duchess of Somerset in 1822. Here, all is life and activity, and it would be difficult to name a place on the face of the globe with brighter prospects or more present satisfaction. In little more than 3 years, it has risen from an insignificant fishing village to a large, prosperous town, containing at least 10,000 inhabitants of all nations, actively engaged in commercial pursuits which afford to each and all a handsome livelihood and abundant profit.
At Images of Sentosa, this reconstruction of the Singapore River in the first half of the 20th century recaptures the feeling of those times. Even at night, its activities never ceased, a vital conduit that brought trade and produce from around the world to the hundreds of godowns that lined its banks, in a colony that made doing business a way of life.
Though Singapore straddled several important maritime trade routes and was already a flourishing port, it was the opening of the Suez Canal and the advent of steamships in the mid-1800s that were instrumental in the colony's increasing growth and prosperity. By the turn of the century, Singapore was already the world's 7th largest port, and as time went on, it became even larger. Giant container ships began to dominate the seas in the latter part of the 20th century. Cargo handling changed character. Slowly, the Singapore River changed character too. It lost its importance as an artery of commerce and relinquished its role to the efficiency of containerization. High-tech automation on a massive scale replaced the back-breaking physical toil of generations of dock laborers. The growth of the port went hand in hand with the growth of the city itself, and here's the man to tell us all about it.
In the 19th century, I would have disembarked from my boat at Johnston's Pier, and this is where I would have stepped onto dry land. On my right was Fullerton's Battery, guarding the mouth of the river. That's why we have Battery Road today. And on my left is the site of Johnston's Godown. When the firm went out of business in the 1890s, the site was acquired by the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, and they still occupy it today. And a little further down the road, on the opposite side of the street, right beside the Bank of China here in the foreground, we have the Standard Chartered Bank, or as was known in the 19th century, the Chartered Bank of India, Australia and China. Like the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, it too has stood on the same site for over 100 years. Battery Road in the mid-19th century, and just around the corner, things were beginning to happen in a really big way. From the very beginning, Raffles Place was always the centre of Singapore's business district. When the British first set up camp here, the south side of the river was swampy, low-lying ground and was subject to frequent flooding. But this was solved by using spoil from a nearby hillock, and the ground made good for building on. I'm actually walking on the landward side of Raffles Place, and the opposite side over there was where the sea lapped up against. This is where the major British commercial houses had their premises, or godowns as they were known. And the office would have fronted Raffles Place, or Commercial Square as it was called in those days, and at the back of the building there were jetties where goods could be brought ashore from ships anchored out in the harbour.
Raffles Place was the undisputed commercial centre of Singapore, and as such it attracted large retail department stores to flank what had become pretty much a convenient customer car park. John Little and Robinsons went on to become household names to countless shoppers, but not everyone survived the fierce retail competition. Whatever did happen, to Whiteaways.
The days of Raffles Place as a shopping district were drawing to a close, and Singaporeans were going to have to go elsewhere for their wherefores and whatnots. After the break, find out where and why. Well, here we are again, and I hope you've put your best pair of walking shoes on, as we're in for a bit of a hike, and it starts here. By the end of the 70s, Raffles Place had lost its retail dimension and become solely the domain of the big finance houses and multinational corporations. So where did all the retailers go?
As Raffles Place evolved into what it is today, retailers noticed that shoppers were going elsewhere, and it seemed a prudent move to follow the money. Orchard Road was gaining prominence and popularity as a shopping area, and that's where many of them went. Bye-bye Raffles Place, hello Shopping Town. Orchard Road was originally just a track through the jungle, which over the years had been painstakingly cleared to provide for residential settlement. Its transition to a commercial area was gradual, and no one at the time could have ever imagined what this sleepy, bucolic road would eventually become.
Let's start off here in Bras and take a stroll down memory lane towards Orchard. I'll show you a few things you might remember, and a few you most probably won't. Now, the whole of this area has changed immensely, even in my lifetime, but some of the places we're going to take a look at were still around when I was a boy, and a few of them were here until just the other day, like the magnificent Cathay building behind me. Built in 1939, it was for many years a Singapore landmark, our very first skyscraper. But what of the building that it replaced?
The magnificent Louis Maltini Bakery occupied the site for 60 years, until it was demolished in 1934 to make the Cathay building, which also had little more than a 60-year lifespan.
Just across the road used to be one of Singapore's first blocks of centrally located apartments, Amber Mansions. But the Dhoby Ghaut MRT station put an end to them in the late 1980s, and it wasn't the only casualty. Behind Amber Mansions stood the Siva Temple, a site of Hindu worship that was nearly as old as the settlement itself. It used to be directly opposite McDonald House, so it too was unfortunately in the way of the MRT station. Up until now, McDonald House itself has managed to avoid change or demolition, but for how much longer, I wonder?
And what else have we got along here? Or rather, more to the point, what haven't we got?
This rather charming little building behind me was the SPCA, which cared for homeless dogs and cats. Nothing was ever built on the site, so it's a rather shame it had to go. It would have made a lovely restaurant or coffee shop. A little further along and we're in the thick of Shopping Town, and here's a place you'll all recognise, Specialists Shopping Centre. This is where the John Little department store ended up when it moved from Raffles Place. But I wonder how many of you will remember the site's previous occupant, the Pavilion Cinema. Not too many, I expect. And what about this view down Orchard Road? It wasn't all that long ago. In fact, you can see in the distance the Hilton Hotel under construction. But today, all that's visible is Ngee Ann City and the welcome addition of some very splendid trees. The greening of Singapore is something I'm wholeheartedly in favour of. Over there on the other side of the road where you see the Crown Prince Hotel, there formerly stood the Prince Hotel, and I'm reliably informed that it had a fabulous restaurant floor show. Certainly my parents liked to dine there a lot, and I seem to remember my mother telling me that it was the first fully air-conditioned restaurant in town. I don't recollect it that well myself, but I do have very clear memories of the building that formerly stood on this particular site. CK Tang Limited, another favourite hangout of my mother's, and if my memory serves me well, I believe I sat astride this handsome beast as a small child.
The founder of this hugely successful retail giant was only 21 when he arrived from Swatow in China in the early 1920s. C.K. Tang had only a few dollars in his pocket, but was cheerfully optimistic. He brought with him 2 tin trunks filled with the finest Swatow embroidery and lace.
He took a room in Arab Street and began his business career in Singapore by peddling his wares from door to door. He also astutely changed his name to C.K. Tang. And here, at 231 River Valley Road, is where he set up his first store in 1932. Today, those same premises are occupied by the most excellent tavern, restaurant and bar.
Business was good and profits were up, so he shifted just down the road in 1940. Number 241 River Valley Road became the second house of Tang, and its business hours reflected its owner's devout Christianity. It was always closed on Sundays. After lean times during the World War II occupation, the determined businessman bounced back and re-established his retail position. Within his building, he also accommodated the Shanghai craftsmen who created much of his traditional merchandise and gained a reputation for quality as well as for scrupulous honesty.
For 18 years, this was the second house of Tang. It's difficult to imagine this space as a busy department store, but in its day, it was an extremely popular place. People came from all over the island just to shop here. And no doubt it's on the strength of this popularity that took it to even greater things.
Though the River Valley site had served C.K. Tang well, he decided it was time to shift to a location that he was sure would become the shopping heart of Singapore. The price was right, so he purchased a prime position at 310 Orchard Road. It's a site the store is unlikely to ever wish to change again.
I remember coming here to C.K. Tang's in about 1958, 59, and I was a very small boy.
Yes.
And I rather get the impression that you might possibly have served my mother. Is that right?
Yes, I might have served her because I have joined Tang's in 1960. So by then, I'm sure you have come in with your mom, or if you have a little photograph, I will be able to recall.
And can you tell us a bit about your recollections of that time?
Oh, I remember I joined them 1st April 1960 in this little house. And I was in the children department. That time there were only 6 showcase.
Oh, well, we must certainly have overlapped because I liked the children's department very much. My mother was always buying clothes for me. And I think the toy department was next door, was that right?
Yeah, that's right.
I seem to remember the story that when the new building first opened, there was some controversy about it being built. There was a graveyard on the opposite side of Orchard Road in those days, and everyone said, oh, not a good site, bad feng shui. Yet Mr. Tang, he didn't worry him.
Yeah, it doesn't worry him at all because as a Christian, he don't believe that whatever is in front of the graveyard, he don't believe that.
All the traditional
That's why
Chinese
he
belief.
carried on with his building.
Well, evidently, it certainly didn't hold him back from any great success. But I mean, what would you put down the success of Tang to?
Oh, in those days, Mr. Tang is successful because of his philosophy. To do business well, have to be honest, honesty, integrity, and value for money. In those days, his goods are all value for money.
That's right. Especially people coming to Singapore from overseas, they found they could buy everything for their house at a very good price.
Yeah, and it's so well known even across the ocean.
Yes, yes. They're famous all over the place.
And his successful counter, his favorite counter is just outside the building here.
All right.
He sell the umbrella, payong,
the old
remember?
payongs, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I still have a payong, but they always say, oh, very old umbrella. But I remember if it was raining and you forgot your payong at home, you buy one there for $1 and take it home.
And that is his best business, his favorite commoner, I should say.
Yes. You sold all sorts of things, including materials, some sort of raw silk imported from China and things like that.
Yes, and those days the raw silk are very cheap. $1.75 for a yard.
Yeah.
And they're selling very well, that one.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, I just discovered one of my father's raw silk shirts the other day in England.
Oh.
Still wearing well.
Yeah, and I'm sure you can put on now.
Well, I think sadly I'm rather bigger nowadays.
You can still wear it, I'm sure, Julian.
Though the third house of Tang was demolished in 1982, its distinctive green-tiled upturned roof was recreated outside its current store. CK Tang is a Singapore success story, but by no means is it the only one.
A leisurely 10-minute stroll down Orchard Road brings us to another famous commercial enterprise which has just celebrated its centenary. Like CK Tang's, it's become a Singaporean institution, and it still stands more or less on the same site as it originally did when it was first established.
Cold Storage began operations in 1903 and opened their first retail outlet 2 years later. The site of their second store in Orchard Road is today occupied by Centrepoint. For many years it was regarded by the British and European communities as the only place to shop for frozen meat, fresh butter, fruit and other food products imported from Australia. As times changed and prosperity grew, its clientele changed and grew as well. Though originally begun as an Australian initiative through a colonial European-based company, it evolved over the past half-century into a staunchly Singaporean icon of enterprise.
The name Cold Storage is itself a delightful anachronism, recalling an era when to be cold in Singapore was really rather special. A little something for my own personal cold storage. I'll try the red, please. In my parents' day, hardly anyone drank wine, but in the last 10 years or so, Singaporeans seem to have taken to the grape like a duck to water, myself included. I personally tend to go for robust reds, but in a climate like Singapore, many people prefer white, and I can't say that I'm that choosy myself. Oh no, that's very nice. But being a good Singaporean, I'm not one to let a free offer pass me by, and this looks especially tempting. Cheers. Right next door to the cold storage, there was the Magnolia Snack Bar, which introduced us to milkshakes and chocolate sundaes, the like of which we had never seen before. You might take them for granted today, but to a boy brought up on ice kacang and onde onde, they were a revelation. The car park directly across the road from the old cold storage transformed itself each evening into a pasar malam or night market where you could get the most delicious local food. It exemplified the spirit of private enterprise in those days. All you needed was a set of pram wheels, a wok and a gas burner, and you were in business.
Business of a similarly modest nature is still conducted here alongside Jalan Besar at the Thieves' Market, so named because of its reputation as a sales outlet for stolen goods in the dim and distant past.
Hello, Mr. Right.
Hello, hello.
My antique calculator.
Yeah.
See it and you can take it, okay? It's a very nice calculator.
But it's made of plastic.
Julian's not about to be taken in by a plastic abacus, but a real leather suitcase is another matter entirely. Julian clearly knows a bargain when he sees one, but obviously thinks $20 is a bit steep.
Sepuluh boleh.
Oh dear. Very expensive.
12 can.
No, actually, this one is antique. It's $30.
13. 30. Yeah, but you give him 1.5.
Yes.
Okay, I pay. I put it here. I come back. Okay, you skip for me, yeah? So I walk around. Come back.
Okay.
5 minutes.
But there's a lot more on offer, and I personally can't see Julian being satisfied simply with an item of vintage luggage.
Well, I think I got the only thing worth buying in the whole market there. So far. Looks more like the real thing. But in fact, it's a very good and graphic way to learn the very elementary ideas of arithmetic. And as I said, when I was a child, when I was about 4 years old, I remember going to school and learning how to count on this. Just looking like $8.
3 for 20.
3 for 20. This is obviously the antique dealer. Very
Okay,
nice.
okay.
Very good.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Number one now.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, these are really beautiful. The cracked glaze. I really like these, actually. $8 more.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah,
4 pieces, $8.
4 piece, $8.
Yeah. See, this is the bad thing about coming to places like this. I mean, I really don't need a set of ketchup bowls, but now I've got them. They're so beautiful. You just don't see this kind of thing anymore. Oh, I get a plastic bag as well. That's good.
Okay, baby.
Okay, sit here. The most remarkable thing I've seen here is a pedestal fan without the fan, just the pedestal. That really is the spirit of free enterprise, I think. Damn hard to play these things. Might just pop a lung or two.
He cooks, he sketches, he writes, but can he play? Apparently not.
But it's good to see that even on the wettest of days, Singapore's entrepreneurial spirit is in no way dampened. I'm just going to go and pick up my suitcase, yeah? Hello, hello?
Hello.
Okay, I come back? No, I think mine is better. So I gave you $2 deposit.
So $13. Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay, that's it. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. So, I've got a fabulous leather suitcase, some rather nice ketchup bowls, crackle glaze, and a rather squashed hat. Not bad for an afternoon shopping.
As another satisfied customer departs with his purchases, it would be timely to pause and reflect upon the astonishing change that the nation's physical profile has undergone in the past 50 years. Central Singapore had spread out considerably since its early days of sparse settlement and had become a low-rise sprawl. To maintain continued growth, there was only one way it could go. It's often said that what goes up must come down, but in Singapore's case, just more goes up. And all this achieved after only a couple of centuries of hard work and business enterprise. It quite beggars the imagination to think what the place will look like in another 100 years, doesn't it? And Julian's doing his bit too, helping out the economy with a long Christmas shopping list. Well done. But it seems he's in need of a break, so we might take one too and find out what he's up to next week. Julian's off to the races and hoping for a big win. And he'll be following the horses to the Singapore Polo Club. A new member for them? I don't think so, but maybe he'll have more luck at the cricket club. To play or bet or just get wet sees horsepower of a different sort. But he's not about to take a pleasure cruise on the harbour today. Some things are definitely spectator sports. And now we'd better check out what he's finding so interesting in there.
I'm sure you'll all agree that shopping is thirsty work, so I hope you'll forgive this minor indulgence. I can't truthfully say that I anticipate a white Christmas this year, but I am certain there'll be plenty of seasonal cheer. So all that remains is for me to wish you a very Merry Christmas from myself and the rest of the crew at Sight and Sound. Your good health. Bliss. And it more or less occupies the same site as it originally. This is a busy department store today, but at its time, oh God, I'm really jamming up this morning. There's something wrong with my head. Like the magnificent Cathay building behind me. Oh, sorry, yeah, but I haven't, guys. Let me just think on the words a bit more.